Imagine standing before a massive mountain. You feel small, powerless, and unsure if you can ever climb it. But what if I told you that mountain isn't made of rock at all? It's built from your fears, self-sabotage, and the habits that keep you stuck. The higher you climb, the more of yourself you conquer. This is what Brianna Wiest the Mountain is. You reveals that the hardest battles aren't out there. They're inside you. And when you master them, life changes in ways you never imagined. So, in today's journey with Shiny Books, we're going to break down this life-changing book into simple, actionable lessons you can start living today. Stay with me, because the summit is closer than you think. You stand at the base of your own mountain, and though you can't touch it or see it in the same way you would a real peak, you can feel its weight pressing on your chest. It's in every hesitation before you take a step toward your dreams, every excuse you tell yourself about why it's not the right time, and every quiet moment when you know you're capable of more, yet you remain still. This is your inner mountain. Brianna Wiest's idea is simple yet powerful. The mountain in your life is not something outside of you. It is you. More specifically, it's the parts of you you've been avoiding. Your fears, your wounds, your limiting beliefs. These are not enemies sent to destroy you. They are invitations to grow. But here's the hard truth. To conquer your mountain, you must first understand it. Think of how mountains are formed. Over time, immense pressure beneath the earth forces rock upward. Your inner mountain is shaped the same way. Years of unprocessed emotions, unmet needs, disappointments, and doubts have layered upon each other until they form something too big to ignore. The avoidance of those pressures doesn't make them disappear. It only makes the mountain taller. It's easy to believe that once you fix your life circumstances, land the perfect job, find the right partner, earn more money, the mountain will crumble on its own. But Wiest reminds us, your external life is a mirror of your internal world. You cannot move the outer boulders without first moving the inner ones. Imagine you've been given a map, and instead of showing trails or scenic routes, it highlights your fears, your regrets, your unhealthy patterns. That's the terrain of your mountain. You can't skip over it. You must face it step by step. That means getting honest about where you're sabotaging yourself, not to shame yourself, but to finally see the truth. Self-sabotage isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. It's staying in a job you've outgrown because it feels safe. It's saying yes to everyone else so often that you forget to say yes to yourself. It's scrolling endlessly to avoid thinking about what really matters. Every one of these is a tiny stone on your mountain, and together they become a wall that blocks your view of what's possible. Understanding your mountain also requires acknowledging your survival instincts. Many of your self-sabotaging habits once served you. Avoidance might have protected you from pain in the past. Perfectionism might have helped you earn approval when you needed it most. But those old coping strategies eventually become heavy gear that slows you down on the climb. Recognizing this is a first step toward letting go. Picture yourself standing at the start of a trail that winds into the unknown. There's no promise the path will be easy. In fact, it will challenge you in ways you've never faced before. But here's the paradox. Every challenge along the way is a clue. A tough conversation reveals where you lack boundaries. A failure shows you where resilience must be built. An uncomfortable truth points to the belief you most need to change. The mountain is not an obstacle to your life. It is your life's work. And here's the real shift in perspective. You are not climbing to escape the mountain. You are climbing to become it, to rise with the lessons you've learned, to stand tall in the face of storms, and to see the world from a higher vantage point, because you've earned your way there. When you finally accept that your inner mountain is built from the exact lessons you need to learn, you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this here to teach me? That's when the climb truly begins. And as we move forward, you'll see that understanding your mountain is only the beginning. The real transformation happens when you uncover the hidden forces that keep you circling its base instead of moving upward. You've taken the first hard step, seeing your mountain clearly. But even when you recognize it, something strange happens. You keep walking in circles at its base. You tell yourself you're preparing for climb, but deep down, you know you're avoiding it. This is the trap of self-sabotage. Brianna Wiest explains that self-sabotage isn't about being lazy, careless, or weak-willed. It's usually the opposite. It's a defense mechanism your mind uses to keep you safe. The problem is, your brain doesn't always distinguish between real danger and perceived danger. If chasing your dreams feels like a risk, your subconscious will do whatever can pull you back to what's familiar, even if that familiar place is painful. Think about it. You want to start a business, but instead of taking the leap, you find yourself endlessly researching, tweaking your logo, or waiting for the perfect time. You're not lazy. You're protecting yourself from a fear of failure. Or maybe you want to get healthier, but you forget to meal prep or don't have time for exercise. These aren't random lapses. They're subtle ways your mind keeps you from confronting discomfort. Wiest points out that self-sabotage thrives on emotional misalignment. That means your conscious desires, what you say you want, are out of sync with your subconscious beliefs, what you actually feel safe having. If you secretly believe you're not worthy of love, you might push away relationships that are good for you. If you've been conditioned to think money is dangerous, you might sabotage financial opportunities without even realizing it. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to see self-sabotage as a signal, not a flaw. Every time you catch yourself procrastinating, overthinking, or avoiding, it's a chance to ask, what am I protecting myself from? This question doesn't just expose the fear. It also reveals the deeper wounds you've been carrying. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Some of those wounds are old, very old. Maybe you learned as a child that it was safer to stay quiet than to speak up. Maybe you grew up in chaos, so stability now feels suspicious. These patterns burrow deep into your subconscious and shape the way you approach life as an adult. Without realizing it, you end up building your habits, relationships, and decisions around those outdated survival strategies. Wiest encourages you to remember, the subconscious is powerful, but it's not unchangeable. Every time you take a small, deliberate step toward what scares you, making that phone call, speaking your truth, applying for the job, you're sending a new message to your brain. This is safe. I can handle this. Over time, your subconscious starts to recalibrate, aligning your actions with your conscious goals. And it's not just about eliminating bad habits. It's about replacing them with intentional ones. If overthinking keeps you stuck, try replacing it with a 2-minute rule. Act on an idea for just 2 minutes instead of spiraling into analysis. If avoidance is your default, commit to doing one small thing every day that feels slightly uncomfortable. These small wins accumulate, building the mental muscle you need for the bigger climbs. There's also a subtle danger in the illusion of progress. Sometimes we do things that feel like forward movement, making endless to-do lists, talking about our dreams, planning every detail. But if those actions never lead to real change, they're just another form of self-sabotage. True progress requires doing the thing that scares you, even if your voice shakes, even if your legs feel like lead. And here's a truth that's both terrifying and liberating. Self-sabotage never fully disappears. It will show up at new stages of your climb, disguised in different forms. The goal isn't to beat it forever. It's to recognize it faster, understand its message, and choose differently. Because the mountain isn't moved by intention alone. It's moved by the steps you take, especially the ones your fear tries to stop. And when you start seeing self-sabotage as a compass, pointing you toward the very areas that need your attention, you stop circling the base and finally begin your ascent. The climb has begun. You've named your mountain and spotted the traps of self-sabotage. But here's the truth. The journey upward isn't paved with comfort. It's carved from pain. And this is where Brianna Wiest delivers one of her most profound insights. Your pain is not a punishment. It's a catalyst. Pain is unavoidable. Loss, rejection, failure, betrayal. These are part of the human experience. But here's what most people miss. Pain can either bury you or build you. When you numb it, deny it, or run from it, it hardens into resentment, fear, and bitterness. But when you face it, study it, and let it shape you, it becomes the very fuel that powers your transformation. Think of the strongest people you admire. Chances are they didn't become who they are because life was easy. They became strong because life was hard, and they decided to use that hardship as training. Pain was the weight they lifted over and over until resilience became second nature. Wiest explains that pain often points to the areas of your life that need healing or change. If you're deeply hurt by criticism, it might be because your self-worth depends too heavily on external validation. If heartbreak crushes you to the point of losing yourself, it may reveal that you've been outsourcing your identity to someone else. These realizations aren't comfortable, but they're priceless. The temptation is to wait for the pain to pass before moving forward. But growth doesn't work that way. The climb happens through the discomfort, not after it. The moment you start using pain as a signal instead of a stop sign, your entire relationship with it changes. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this here to teach me?" Sometimes the lesson pain offers is clarity. Think about the last time you felt stuck in a job or relationship. Maybe you endured it for years, convincing yourself it wasn't that bad. Then something happened, an argument, a breaking point, and suddenly you couldn't unsee the truth. That moment hurt, but it also set you free. Without that pain, you might still be trapped in the same cycle. Transformation through pain also requires letting go of old identities. You can't become who you're meant to be while clinging to the person you used to be. This is one of the hardest parts of the climb, mourning the version of yourself who fit comfortably into smaller spaces. But every time you release a past version of yourself, you make room for someone stronger, wiser, and freer to emerge. Wiest reminds us that the point of the mountain isn't just to win or achieve. It's to become a person who can handle the summit when they get there. Pain builds that capacity. It strengthens your emotional muscles, deepens your empathy, and sharpens your focus. The view from the top won't mean much if you arrive fragile, untested, and afraid to lose it all. Here's a practical shift you can make starting now. Instead of labeling pain as bad, try reframing it as data. When something hurts, get curious. Ask yourself, what is this showing me about what I value? What does this reveal about my boundaries? How can I use this as a stepping stone instead of a stumbling block? You'll notice something magical when you approach pain this way. It becomes lighter, not because it's gone, but because you've stopped fighting it. And in that acceptance, you free up the energy you use to waste resisting reality. That energy can now be used to take the next step upward. The higher you climb, the more you'll realize pain isn't the enemy. Avoidance is. Pain wants to transform you. Avoidance wants to keep you exactly where you are. Choosing pain, facing it, feeling it, and letting it teach you is choosing growth. And every time you do, you gain not just altitude on the mountain, but a deeper sense of who you truly are. You've learned to see your pain as a teacher. But to truly navigate the climb, you need a skill that acts like your compass and map combined, emotional intelligence. Brianna Wiest emphasizes that this is the core tool for scaling your inner mountain. Because without it, you'll constantly mistake storms for dead ends and end up retreating when you could have kept going. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, isn't about controlling your feelings in a rigid, robotic way. It's about understanding them so deeply that they stop controlling you. Most people believe emotions are problems to solve or weaknesses to hide, but Wiest reframes them as vital information. They tell you when you're out of alignment, when something matters, and when you need to set boundaries. Without that data, you're climbing blind. Imagine you're halfway up a mountain and a storm rolls in. The storm being an overwhelming wave of anxiety, anger, or doubt. Without emotional intelligence, you panic, lose your footing, and tumble backward. But with it, you pause, recognize the feeling, and ask, what does this try to show me? That simple question shifts you from reacting impulsively to responding intentionally. One of the first skills in building emotional intelligence is self-awareness. This means noticing your feelings as they happen rather than after you've already acted on them. If you can catch yourself getting defensive during a conversation, you can choose curiosity over conflict. If you notice sadness creeping in, you can tend to it before it spirals into hopelessness. The next piece is self-regulation. Your ability to ride the emotional wave without letting it drag you under. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means finding healthy ways to process them. Journaling, deep breathing, physical movement, or talking to someone you trust are all ways to let the emotion pass without it dictating your actions. But emotional intelligence isn't just inward looking. It's also about empathy, being able to see and understand what others are feeling. When you can read the emotional climate of a situation, you make better decisions, whether it's negotiating, offering support, or setting boundaries. On the climb, empathy helps you navigate relationships without unnecessary conflict, conserving your energy for the real challenges ahead. Another key aspect Wiest highlights is emotional resilience, the ability to recover quickly from setbacks. This is where EQ becomes a superpower. Life will knock you down. You will face rejection, criticism, and failure. Without resilience, these moments feel like proof you should give up. With it, they become temporary detours, not permanent endings. One practical way to strengthen emotional resilience is through reframing. Let's say you launch a project and it flops. Instead of thinking, "I'm terrible at this," you shift to, "I learned what doesn't work, which brings me closer to what will." That mental pivot changes how you feel, which changes how you act, which changes your results. Wiest also warns about emotional bypassing, the habit of using positivity as a mask to avoid uncomfortable truths. While optimism is valuable, pretending everything is fine when it isn't keeps you from addressing the real problem. True emotional intelligence allows you to acknowledge pain and believe in your ability to handle it. Building EQ is like learning the mountain's language. Every gust of wind, every shift in the terrain, every drop in temperature, they all mean something. The more fluent you become, the less you fear the climb, because you can read the signs and adapt. You stop expecting perfect weather and start focusing on becoming the kind of climber who can handle any condition. And here's the most important part. Emotional intelligence isn't just a skill for the climb. It's who you become because of the climb. The more you practice, the more grounded, self-aware, and compassionate you become. You start realizing that the summit isn't a single destination, but a state of being, a place where you trust yourself to face whatever comes next, knowing you have the tools to navigate it with strength and clarity. You've faced the truth about your mountain, confronted self-sabotage, transformed pain into power, and developed emotional intelligence. Now, Brianna Wiest invites you to embrace the final, most profound stage of the climb, becoming the mountain. At first, the phrase sounds poetic, maybe even abstract. But when you look closer, you realize it's the ultimate goal of this entire journey. Becoming the mountain means you no longer see challenges as separate from you. They are simply part of the landscape of your life. You've stopped wishing for the path to be easier and started making yourself stronger, steadier, and more unshakable. In the beginning, you were someone standing at the base, intimidated by the sheer size of what you needed to overcome. But through each step, confronting fears, breaking patterns, facing pain, mastering your emotions, you've transformed. The mountain no longer towers over you. It lives within you. Your resilience, self-awareness, and clarity have made you the very thing you once thought you had to conquer. Wiest explains that becoming the mountain is not about being invincible. It's about being rooted. Mountains face storms, erosion, and harsh seasons, yet they remain. They adapt slowly, but with purpose. In your life, this means you no longer react impulsively to every challenge. You stand grounded in who you are, making choices from a place of strength rather than fear. One sign you become the mountain is that external circumstances no longer control your inner state. Opportunities may come and go. People may misunderstand you. Setbacks may arrive unexpectedly, but you don't lose yourself in the process. You respond thoughtfully, knowing that your worth and stability aren't dictated by what happens outside of you. Another sign is the quiet confidence that replaces constant striving. You still set goals and work toward them, but you're no longer chasing validation or proof. Instead, you live with a sense of alignment, the understanding that you are already enough, and everything you build from here is an expression of your true self, not a desperate attempt to fill a void. Becoming the mountain also shifts how you relate to others. Instead of seeking relationships to complete you, you connect from a place of wholeness. You can hold space for others without losing yourself, offer help without resentment, and walk away when something no longer aligns with your values. Your boundaries are clear, not as walls to keep people out, but as guardrails to keep you on your path. And perhaps most importantly, you embrace life's uncertainty with openness instead of resistance. You understand there will always be new climbs, fresh challenges, unexpected detours, moments of doubt. But now you meet them not as obstacles to fear, but as parts of the adventure. You've climbed enough to know that every path, even the steepest, lead somewhere worth going. Wiest's message is clear. The purpose of the mountain was never just to reach the top. The purpose was to create a version of you who no longer fears a climb. A version who can stand at the edge of any challenge, breathe deeply, and trust, I can handle this. In the end, becoming the mountain means embodying the qualities you once thought you had to find somewhere else. Strength, stability, patience, and perspective. And when you reach that place, you realize something surprising. The summit isn't the end. It's the start of a new horizon. Because once you become a mountain, there's no limit to how far you can see, how deeply you can live, and how high you can go. If this journey through the mountain is you resonated with you, remember, the climb doesn't end when the video stops. Right now, you have a choice to let these ideas fade into background or to start applying them to your own life. Look at your mountain, your fears, your patterns, your pain, and take one deliberate step today toward facing it. That step can be small. It can be as simple as having a difficult conversation, writing down the belief you need to let go of, or making a promise to yourself that you actually keep. At Shiny Books, we believe transformation happens one choice at a time, and you have everything you need to begin. So, if you found value in this breakdown, don't just leave it here. Join our community of readers and climbers who are committed to becoming the strongest versions of themselves. Hit the like button, share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more book summaries that will challenge, inspire, and equip you for your own journey. Your mountain is waiting, and the summit, it's already within you. Let's climb together.